All right, welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the May 21st, 2026 regular business meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Please stand for the pledge.
Chair Charles,
Here.
Vice Chair Newfogleis,
Here.
Supervisor Darby,
Here.
Supervisor McFarland.
Here.
Supervisor Knights is absent, but we do expect he'll be joining us in a little bit. And our student representative, Aubrey Patton.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Prior to tonight's business meeting, the board held an executive session to discuss personnel matters and litigation. Please note there will be no action on the 7 Brew conditional use application tonight. This agenda item is being tabled as the applicant has informed the township they intend to submit a revised site plan and layout. First up, we're going to have the Public Service Recognition Proclamation read by Supervisor McFarland.
Thank you. A proclamation for the recognition of public servants. Whereas Lower Providence Township's public servants make sacrifices to serve our community, work diligently on the front lines and behind the scenes to ensure our township operates safely and efficiently each and every day. Whereas we wish to honor and celebrate the invaluable contributions of these public servants who work on behalf of all who live, work, and visit Lower Providence Township. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes the following national weeks celebrated in May and urges all citizens to join them in expressing gratitude and appreciation for our public servants. National Public Service Week, May 3 to 9, celebrates all of the dedicated individuals who keep our communities running every day. National Police Week, May 11 to 16, recognizes the invaluable service of law enforcement officers and includes Peace Officers Memorial Day, which honors those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. National Public Works Week, May 17 to 23, recognizes the men and women who plan, build, and maintain the infrastructure so essential to our community. National Emergency Medical Services Week, May 17 to 23, celebrates the EMS personnel who provide life-saving skills in response to medical emergencies. Proclaimed this 21st day of May, 2026. I would just add that even though some of those dates have passed, we appreciate them all year anyway. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And looking around this room, it looks like almost all of us should be celebrated this month. So thank you to the township staff and all of us, because it's a noble profession, all of these professions, and it's not easy. It's not easy. So thank you all. Next, we'll have a Small Business Month proclamation. Supervisor Newfogleis.
Thank you. Proclamation, Small Business Month. Whereas small businesses are the backbone of the American economy, creating jobs, driving innovation, contributing significantly to the vitality and character of local communities, and whereas the dedication, resilience, and creativity of small business owners and their employees, particularly in the face of economic challenges, continue to inspire and sustain our township, and whereas supporting local businesses encourage reinvestment in our community, promotes job growth, and preserves the unique character and identity of Lower Providence. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims May 2026 as Small Business Month in Lower Providence Township, providing an opportunity for residents to celebrate, support the contributions of small businesses in our community and across the country. Proclaimed this 21st day of May 2026.
Great, thank you. And one more, and we're going to do the Pride Month proclamation now because our next meeting is not till June 18th. Proclamation, Pride Month 2026. Whereas Lower Providence Township is committed to fostering a community that celebrates diversity, promotes inclusion, and respects the dignity and worth of every resident. Whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to recognize and honor the contributions, the history, and resilience of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer individuals who enrich the social, cultural, and economic fabric of our community. Whereas by coming together in support and celebration of Pride Month, we affirm that respect and belonging are at the heart of our township and that everyone deserves to be seen, valued, embraced for who they are. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims June 2026 as Pride Month. Okay, next on to the presentations. We're going to have our student representative report. Ms. Patton.
Okay, so I'm at Acton. Students are staying busy as the school year wraps up with spring sports, concerts, AP testing, and end-of-year activities. Prom and post-prom took place a few weeks ago and was very fun. Students got to dress up and dance and then spend the night doing fun activities at the school like going on the inflatables. AP exams and Keystone testing have recently taken place at MHS. Many students are also beginning final projects and preparing for final exams as the school year comes to a close. Finals take place from June 8th to the 11th, and students get to leave early after taking them. And the graduation for the class of 2026 is on June 11th. Today there was a senior breakfast where students got to get their yearbooks and get them signed, and they went on to a trip to Hershey Park for their senior trip. Sports are also coming to an end. On May 8th, Methacton students competed in the Special Olympics, where they competed in different activities and earned ribbons, and boys tennis won its 4th PAC championship. And yeah, that's all.
Great, thank you. Next up, we're going to have a commendation of merit for Officer Niles Long and Chief Jackson.
All right, good evening. We're going to be awarding a merit commendation to Officer
Chief,
Niles Long.
Microphone.
All right. Good morning. Good evening. We're going to be awarding a merit commendation to Officer Niles Long. Niles has been with us almost 6 years now, but he's already have a pretty impressive record when it comes to awards. He has received several commendations in the past, including a life-saving commendation. Just recently, he's been awarded the Officer of the Year for 2025, and just last week, he received a District Attorney's commendation for the work that he's done in Lower Providence Township. So tonight's a little bit different. It's a different award. Niles, if you don't mind coming up, please. So the merit commendation reads, on March 28, 2024, at 02:08 hours, Officer Niles Long was monitoring traffic in the 2600 block of Egypt Road when a vehicle passed him with illegal window screening. Officer Long initiated a motor vehicle stop and approached the vehicle. When he made contact with the driver, he observed the vehicle to be occupied by 5 males wearing all dark clothing and 1 occupant wearing a face mask. While speaking with the driver, Officer Long observed a small satchel underneath the front passenger seat and noticed a strong odor of burnt marijuana emanating from the passenger compartment. He requested that the driver exit the vehicle, and he conducted a roadside interview. When asked if there were any weapons inside the vehicle, the driver stated that he was unsure. That's not good. Intending on securing the vehicle and applying for a search warrant, Officer Long removed each of the occupants one by one. During a consensual pat-down of the rear seat passenger, Officer Long discovered a loaded 9mm Glock 45 handgun in his waistband. A second rear seat passenger was asked to step out of the vehicle, and he was found in possession of a 9mm Taurus PT-111 handgun in his waistband as well. A third passenger, who was identified as a 15-year-old male, was in violation of the township curfew and found in possession of 3 Glock switches, which are small devices that can be attached to the rear of the slide of a Glock handgun, converting the semi-automatic pistol into a selective fire machine pistol. All 3 suspects were taken into custody and their firearms seized. The adults were charged with carrying a firearm without a license and related offenses. The juvenile was charged with prohibited offensive weapon and related offenses. Later that day, a search warrant was executed on the vehicle, resulting in the seizure of marijuana, drug paraphernalia, and a Glock-style BB gun. This is an excellent example of proactive and intelligent police work, and you are hereby awarded a merit commendation. Congratulations, and thank you for your efforts. I just want to touch on this. Niles, yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah. Niles is a very proactive police officer, as many of our officers, especially some in the back there, are. And to date, I mean, over the last couple of years, that's one thing we have seen numerous times are firearms, illegal firearms in the hands of people who should not possess them. And these guys every day go out there and do a great job taking those guns off the street. So I'm very proud of the work they do, and thank you again. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a great night. Okay, we're going to have a presentation by Jay Browning, and he is the president. Are you still the president? I think you are. Okay. Of the Collegeville chapter of the Rotary. So thank you for being here, Jay. And this is in conjunction to celebrate Small Business Month. I thought it would be nice to bring the Rotary in and all of us to learn. Maybe everybody already knows about the Rotary, though. But
I'm still learning.
okay, there's lots to learn.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. As the president of the Collegeville Area Rotary Club, I'm honored to share what Rotary means to me and to our community. My name is Jay Browning. I'm a local leadership consultant in the township, and I have the privilege of serving as the club president since July of 2025. Imagine a group of neighbors, professionals, and friends who come together not just to network, but to roll up their sleeves and make a difference. Because that's what Collegeville Area Rotary is and has been since 1949. Today, I'd like to share a quick overview of Rotary, highlight our club's impactful local work, and invite you to join our efforts because I would be reneged if I didn't ask you to help us. Good, thank you. Established in 1933 in Chicago, Illinois, Rotary International is one of the world's largest service organizations with over 1.5 million members, 46,000 clubs in over 200 countries. Most know us for our ongoing efforts to eradicate polio from the earth. Since 1979, we have been on the front lines of this effort and will not stop until we completely eradicate this awful disease from our planet. Rotary has 7 areas of focus. They are peace and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water, sanitation and hygiene, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, community impact and development, and the environment. While Rotary is global, our impact starts right here at home. Our club was founded in 1949, and we've embraced the service above self construct for over 77 years. We have descendants of the founders of our club, still members of our organization. We meet on the second Wednesday of each month at 6:30 in Evansville Winery, or at a local restaurant where we welcome potential members, or we sometimes meet virtually. But we're more than meetings. We're a vibrant club of action-oriented people who build friendships while serving this community. Our club is part of the District 7430 of Rotary, and we proudly serve the Perkiomen Valley and Methacton School District areas. In the area of environmental stewardship, we participate in the Perkiomen Stream Cleanup in conjunction with the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy, helping to protect our waterways and its natural beauties for future generation. We also have just recently finished a project with the PV School District and their 2 arboretums. That was part of a district grant that Rotary supplied. In the area of youth and education, we provide scholarships to deserving local students and support youth leadership programs. We engage with local schools and youth initiatives, of which STEM Yay, which is an 8th grade 4-day camp, our youth exchange in high schools where we bring international students and we send our high school students internationally, our Interact clubs are high schools, our Rotaract clubs for college students, and we have a Rotaract club at Ursinus at this point right now. If you could change that slide, please. Through the Rotary Foundation, we fund local and international humanitarian projects. Members of our club have traveled to India at their own expense to assist in a joint clean water project and have returned back several times. We emphasize global connections, including our youth exchange and inter-country committees, which started during World War II, and we just had a speaker here last week from Italy, where we had a congregation of people from Italy come visit here after we've sent many of our members to Italy several months ago. Finally, every project reflects our commitment. Small actions by dedicated people create lasting change. Whether it's a cleaner stream, a supported student, or a joyful community gathering, we dedicate ourselves to this community. Whether you have a few hours or a big idea, there's a place for you at Collegeville Area Rotary. You can join us, as I've said, at Evansburg Wineries on the second Wednesday of the month. You can check out our website at collegeville.rotary.com, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Great, thank you. I'll say that I joined as a member last year, and I've been to a few of your meetings. I'm so busy lately. I haven't been there in a while. I'm coming back. But the people, the energy, the projects, it's really impressive what the Rotary does. Because I always drive on the street and see the sign, and I thought, well, I wonder what the Rotary does do. And it's an amazing group of people. It's awesome.
I didn't have any idea what Rotary was. Mm-hmm. Always looking for projects, and we're looking for members all the time. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Jay, before you go, just I was unaware myself of the comprehensive level of involvement you are, not only in projects, but also globally. I'm wondering if on a general scale, not specific, where is most of your revenue coming from? Where are you getting your funds?
We do fundraisers. Our big fundraiser of the year, and we've been doing it for 66 years, is the Collegeville Halloween Parade and Festival. We do smaller projects throughout the year, and most of that fundraising goes to local projects. We send students to a camp for leadership, high school kids to a camp for leadership, Camp Nidec. We also help with the food banks and things like that in the community. And of course, we're asked for grants all the time from organizations that are looking for support as well. So on a small scale, that's where we generate our revenue, and of course our membership dues. On a regional scale, the district level also collects money and then redistributes it to all 43 clubs in the district that we are in. And then internationally, the foundation has $1.5 billion foundation that they spread money around the world.
Well, that's great. It's all good work and money well spent, and thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And welcome Gary, Supervisor Knights, to the meeting. Thank you. All right, next on to the consent agenda. Next is the consent agenda. Tonight's agenda includes acceptance of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors business meeting of April 16th, 2026, the minutes of township boards, meetings, commissions, monthly departmental record reports, and the authorization of the payment of bills amounting to $1,646,114.83, the treasurer's report, and an escrow release for Shenandoah Phase 3, Building 12, in the amount of $327,705.87. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next up is a public notice and a comment hearing for the Verizon franchise agreement renewal. There will be no vote on the renewal agreement tonight, just the hearing. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Township Manager E.J. Mentry will explain the purpose of tonight's hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. This is a public hearing of the Board of Supervisors regarding cable franchise renewal for Lower Providence Township. This public hearing is held pursuant to Section 626 of the Federal Cable Act, which sets forth the process for franchise renewal. The township's current franchise with Verizon is within the industry norm renewal window, and the township is beginning the process of renewing the franchise. This public hearing is part of the preliminary portion of franchise renewal, in which the township reviews the cable operator's past performance and identifies the township's future cable-related community needs. As such, as part of this public hearing, we invite comments from any citizens who wish to speak regarding either or both of the aforementioned subjects. Franchise renewal is the best opportunity for municipalities to assert their rights with respect to their cable operator and to obtain important benefits in return for granting the cable operator the right to use their public rights of way. These benefits include a state-of-the-art cable system now and in the future, strong customer service standards, free services to community facilities, better reporting requirements from the cable operators, maximized franchise fees, public educational and governmental channels if desired, PEG, which is public educational and governmental capital support funding if desired, legal protections of the rights of way, and better mechanisms to enforce the franchise agreement. These are just some of the potential benefits available through franchise renewal. Citizens may address these items or any other cable-related items that are important to them. We will now open the hearing up to citizen comments. Thank you. Seeing none, it would be appropriate to make a motion to close the hearing.
Great. Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second, but can I just add one thing? Could we announce to the public the representative law group that is representing us and their contact information, should any of the public wish to contact them about an issue?
Certainly, yeah. Thank you, Supervisor McFarland. So the township has engaged the Cohen Law Group, which is a Pennsylvania law firm that really specializes in these cable franchise agreements and really all kind of telecommunication related matters. So if subsequent to tonight's meeting there are any questions or comments, we will share those with the Cohen Law Group and they will be able to provide a response. And their office number is 412-447-0130. Cohen Law Group, COHEN.
And we'll post that on the website and the Facebook page?
Sure, yeah.
And I have a question. You know, I know Comcast is like a large dominant cable provider. Realistically, are they the only choice for this? Like, can we have multiple cable providers? I'm not saying if there are others, but I'm just more for the public. How does this work?
So the township currently, so no, they're not the only one, to answer your question directly. And the township currently has two existing franchise agreements, one with Verizon and one with Comcast. And we do receive a not insignificant amount of revenue each year through those cable franchise agreements. So, you know, the goal through this renewal process is to try to identify any additional sources of revenue that are not currently being captured, especially in the changing landscape of streaming and telecommunications, to make sure that we're capturing every potential penny that we can through these agreements.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll say, oh,
Okay. All right, thank you. On to old business. Conditional use decision, 2641 Ridge Pike, the 7 Brew. And first I'll say, as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this item is being tabled until June meeting or later. The applicant has informed the township that they intend to submit a revised layout for the project. And we're going to ask Solicitor Helionak to give some more information. Or no, it's not necessary.
I don't think
Okay.
there is any more information at
Okay.
this time, but there's no action required from the
Okay.
board. The Applicant has requested the continuance and has provided the appropriate waivers to permit the township to do so. So we don't need to do anything further at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Next on to consideration of Resolution 2026-15, amending the 2026 fee schedule. EJ Mentry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really just a minor cleanup item. We identified a minor typo and clerical error in the fee schedule that was approved a couple of months ago. I had it up on my screen and I don't see it now.
Is that the zoning certification?
Zoning certification, it was listed in there for $25 and it's supposed to be $125. So that's literally the only change. But it does require a resolution.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve Resolution 2026-15, amending the 2026 fee schedule. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, board comment? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Authorization to advertise bid for Red Tail Park redevelopment project. Paul Donnelly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, this is a pretty exciting one because for the past couple of years, we've all been exploring the opportunities to redevelop Red Tail Park and add amenities to what is now currently very well utilized park, particularly in the softball season. We were successful in 2024 for a DCNR grant of about a total of $500,000, and then we were successful subsequent year in 2025 for about the same amount. Over the past couple of months, we've been pursuing administratively combining those two grants into one kind of big grant, so it's a lot easier to administer from our end, but also that we can kind of deliver the community one completed project at one time. We're finally at the stage now, we're ready to bid the project out. It's a project that's a little bit shy of $1 million. We'll be doing bidding the project out. The project will include major improvements to the parking. That would include a restroom and include ADA access into that lower level, an all-inclusive park, additional trails installed, and potentially, if we're able to, also include a pavilion. And so we're going to be able to move forward all at once with this project. And so we're at the stage now where we can kind of bid it out. Tim's also here, who's been working very closely with us to work out the details of that bid. If you have any questions.
I have a question. Is there like a plan, a new rendition of what it's going to look like, or no?
I mean, the rendition is the same.
It's the
it
same.
hasn't really
Okay,
changed.
nothing changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
the combination of the grants is really just combining all of, making sure all that plan is under one kind of grant
Understood.
umbrella. Yeah,
Understood.
So
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm excited to see the final.
it's going to be great.
Do you think this combination offers the potential for economies of scale in bidding?
That is the hope. Yeah, that's the hope.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, motion to approve advertisement of bid for Red Tail Park redevelopment project. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Consideration of Resolution 2026-16, authorizing transfer of unencumbered monies. EJ Mentry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a resolution that we typically do every year in either April or May. It's kind of a formality under the second-class township code. This is seeking approval to transfer money from the general fund into the capital fund that was already budgeted as part of the 2026 budget, but just to formally comply with the second-class township code, we like to do it by resolution. So this resolution authorizes the transfer of up to $198,829 from general fund to capital fund in accordance with the adopted 2026 budget.
Thank you. Motion to approve Resolution 2026-16, authorizing transfer of unencumbered monies. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board comment?
Question. It says up to 198. Is that because we expect to know the exact spending as we go through the process?
Yeah, so that money is a combination of budgeted money to transfer to capital fund to kind of build up the capital fund through this multi-year funding plan that we started a couple years ago. But then a portion of that is also for some of the specific capital projects that were identified for 2026. So in the event that they come in a little bit below budget, then that number would be a little bit lower. That's why it's the up to.
Okay, any board comments? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of change order for shed at 800 Adams Avenue, EJ Mentry and/or Chief Jackson.
So thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start this out and just kind of go through the cost breakdown, and then Chief can kind of speak to the request itself and the purpose for the shed. So this is something that we have talked about numerous times. Initially, this is to add a storage shed over at 800 Adams Avenue. We decided to kind of shop around the shed itself outside of the existing contracts in an attempt to try to get better pricing. We found a CoStarz vendor. I know the chief got at least 3 quotes. The total cost for the shed itself is $20,470, which is below the bidding threshold. But even if it was above the bidding threshold, it's a CoStarz certified vendor. So that's the cost. That's the vendor direct cost to purchase the shed itself. There is a significant amount of associated site work to prep the site, run electric, for the shed, and the total cost of that, which is essentially the change order for the construction contract, is it's a total of $76,000 combined between the general contractor and the electrical contractor. That entire amount is covered by the allowances that were already built into the contracts, and even if approved by the board, it still leaves a total allowance amount for the project among all the contracts of $322,058. So essentially, we have the money already built into the project budget and the multi-prime contracts to cover the cost of this change order. But because it is a true add-on with the shed that was not anticipated as part of the original design, that requires board approval. And the chief can speak more to kind of what the shed will be used for.
So it's a 2 garage door shed. One half would be for bulk evidence. Currently, we keep bulk evidence on campus here, and that's not an ideal situation for moving down there. We need our bulk evidence closer to us. So bulk evidence would be anything too large for our current evidence room. We just can't keep it in. Or maybe it's potentially volatile type substance, or you don't want to keep it inside of your building. That's probably a poor choice of words, but you get the idea. So the other side would be for more storage type stuff. We have a side-by-side, we have signs, we have all kinds of equipment that we have to store, and it's preferred that we store it outside, police bikes even. But in addition to our equipment, Public Works Department will store some stuff in there, snow blower, stuff that they need for property maintenance as well. So that's pretty much the general idea of why we are looking for the shed.
Just a quick question, Chief. The shed construction is sufficient that you're confident that the evidence portion would not be easily, broken into?
Yes, I'm very confident. It's going to be within a secured area, secured back lot under camera. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on the finances. You had mentioned that the total with the site work and everything, electrical, would be approximately $76,000. So how I'm reading this is that 20,000 of that approximately is for the shed material, and then about 56,000, no, sorry.
76,000 is the site work total plus the 20,000 for the shed, so 96 total.
I'm just trying to understand the site work a little bit, because that seems like a lot of site work. I'm not saying it's not needed.
I agree.
I don't understand it.
I can walk you through. So of that 76,000, about 44,000 is work associated with the general contractor, and about 32,000 is the electrical contractor. The general contractor scope for this change order would be labor, material, equipment, and supervision necessary to complete the site work and concrete work associated with the owner-supplied garage. Work would include silt sock layout, saw cut and remove existing curb, asphalt paving, excavation for the new slab on grade, set and pour new curb. It includes subbase, wire mesh, concrete. I'm reading directly off of their proposal.
Like a 24 by 24 roughly?
Yeah, and it's a 6-inch stone subbase with a 6-inch concrete slab on grade. Does that sound right, Tim?
That sounds correct, EJ, yes. And to your point, Gary, I think much of that cost comes in the concrete slab that will be set to accept the prefab structure to sit atop it. There is some earthwork there as well, EJ.
There's some seating and
Yeah,
earthwork,
so there is a
Seating.
now there's a bit, yeah, that's a big number. But there's kind of a mound there today, and that has to be leveled. So there's excavation and export of material that goes into those costs as well, I am sure.
So you think it's reasonable?
With the slab included, I think it's about right, yes.
And 32K for electrical?
So and I'll explain that, but just to touch on the GC, the 44,000, is that what I said? Of the 44,000 for the GC, 30,000, almost 31 is just for the concrete slab. So the electrical includes a new feeder pathway for the EMT conduit, underground PVC conduit pathway with exterior wall penetration and transition, feeder conductors and pulling, breaker and panel terminations. There's some trenching, excavation and backfill and compaction, spoils removal and site cleanup, and then they have a little bit of work with the concrete, asphalt saw cut and restoration as well for the electrical portion of it. I will.
That still sounds heavy to me. You're not, what do you got, about 300 watts of lights in there? And that's about how much electrical energy is required in this building. I wouldn't think more than lighting would be really I'm not aware of it. Are you going to be running anything heavy equipment in there? No.
It's just standard lighting
That's what I
and
thought.
standard receptacles.
Right, thank you.
But
Seems like a lot.
maybe this is for Tim, is this because we have to, I get the trenching, you have to dig out the concrete, you have to break through the wall, I guess, into the building? Is there interior work that is required here to?
I'm not sure I'm familiar enough, Gary, with the electrical side of that change order, but obviously there needs to be new circuit run and, again, the basement wall penetration. And I know that excavation of that asphalt and,
I wired
Peter,
stuff
would
in
agree.
high school. I mean, I did commercial wiring in high school. This seems like a lot.
It seems like a lot, but pricing today, I just can't wrap my arms around the costs that we're getting back for all kinds of materials and projects and housing. It just, so it seems like a lot
I
to
can
me.
see cost in all of what was mentioned about trenches and burying. I don't know why for 800 kilowatts of lights that you couldn't just run a wire across over the road above the trailer height and just run it there.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Is that legal?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I doubt that would be code compliant, but we have some code experts here. I don't want to put them on the spot. Fire marshal? What?
That wouldn't be allowed.
You can't have an overhead wire like you have into a house?
No, not for the commercial property, but more importantly for that area, it's because it's a fire lane. So the fire trucks have to be able to still be able to get back there, so.
So I'm going to quit on this, but, so the fire trucks can get under the Pico lines, right? The fire trucks can get under the Pico lines on the roads.
Certainly, yes.
So if this wire was that height, because it's a 3-story building, why would that be a problem?
I don't believe the code would allow a commercial overhead tap.
When you say the code, you mean the zoning code?
No, the electrical code, National Electrical Code.
It
Yeah.
would not allow it there, but it does allow it on the road?
Correct.
Right.
One's a transmission line and one's not. So it's completely different.
And I'm assuming there's probably a good reason for this.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there's a good reason for it. What the reason for it is, I couldn't speak to, but I'm sure that there is.
So is it temperature controlled, the shed, for the evidence part of it?
It is not, no.
It's not, okay, all right. Is there a way that maybe some solar lights can be used potentially to lower cost?
That's above my pay grade.
Okay. And then where is this located on the property? Is it to, if I'm looking at the building straight on, is it to the right or to the left?
Doc, so if you look at the building straight on the front doors, back right corner is where we have it shown right now.
Where the large tree was?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So is there going to be something to soften the look of that shed then? On the right-hand side, like some shrubbery?
Yeah, there's nothing on the plan today to specifically screen the shed.
Okay. I know that's more, I mean, you know, we're talking about accepting
Yeah.
the cost of it or not, but it was just a question, that's all.
You said it was 800 watts of light?
I did, but
You did?
I was guessing.
Is it possible to get more information on the electrical? Because, I mean, it does seem that the site prep cost is awfully high.
Yes. I don't think there's any harm with putting this off for another month. Well, I don't think. I can't say that for certain. I mean, there could be issues with the contractors and their sequencing of this project, but.
And concrete work.
Yeah.
But to Dr. Darby's point, I've heard in situations like this where it's expensive to run electrical, you'll use solar, and just assuming it's even 1,200 watts, you know, you can have a solar situation or a solar setup with batteries that could be more economical, that would give you 24/7 power. So it's just something to evaluate.
Okay, how about we gather more information then, and then bring it up at the next meeting, since there's a lot of questions.
How long is this price locked in for? Cost of the shed?
I'd have to defer to you, Chief, on the.
I think the shed, we're fine.
Okay,
The site work, that may be a completely different story.
okay, okay.
But the shed, I'm pretty sure that's set. We're all right.
So if it turns out that there's something urgent, could you have an ad hoc meeting to get an approval or something like that?
Well, it would have to be a public meeting, yeah.
When's our next public meeting?
June 18th.
Okay.
I think we would all feel more comfortable waiting until we get more information.
Okay.
I don't want you to be forced into voting on something that you don't feel comfortable with.
I mean, the
I would
shed is
also
not
say
the
that
problem. I don't think the shed's the problem. I think.
No,
it's
and I would
the
also say that
other-
we've had the price for the shed for about 2 months now,
Right.
and we've been waiting to get the prices for the site work for that long, and just got them today.
Yeah.
Well, tell the shed people yes. The other part, no.
The shed is co-stars, yeah. So, yeah, I'm not concerned about the shed. If there's any fluctuation, it might be a few bucks. I doubt it'll be anything significant. But we'll find out more information. I'll make sure, as we'll follow up with the construction manager and then, relay. Certainly, if you think of any additional questions, send them my way. But we'll get more information for you all.
Great, thank you.
And the reason why I'm suggesting the solar, because if it's not temperature controlled, I think that should be sufficient, right? Instead of electrical. So that's why.
Yeah. I have no idea. I don't want to give an answer because I genuinely don't know, but we will ask about that for sure.
Great, okay, thank you. Consideration of memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity. EJ Mentry, Township Manager.
Thank you. Just changing screens and papers here. So we're excited to finally bring this to the board. It's taken us a couple of months to work on this and get the details all finalized, but I'm excited to bring before you this MOU between the Township and Habitat for Humanity, which essentially assigns the administration of our new critical repair program to Habitat for Humanity. This has been reviewed and worked on by township staff, township solicitor, the Habitat for Humanity staff, and everybody's ready to move forward with this project and actually get started on it. This was one of the board's new initiatives for this year that was included in the adopted budget for 2026. So we're eager to get started on this.
Could you just say a few more words about how it will help our residents potentially and perhaps seniors in our community?
Yes, certainly, and Mike, feel free to chime in if I miss anything. But essentially, the idea behind this critical repair program is where it started was with oftentimes with code enforcement issues or violations. Sometimes the code violations that are identified are not so significant in cost, but are significant in terms of the habitability of the residence or the structure. But with our lower income residents in our community, sometimes the cost is still prohibitive. So the idea behind this program is the township will fund a certain portion or percentage of these repairs administered through Habitat for Humanity, who essentially specializes in doing this type of work. So they're going to essentially handle kind of the application and intake process with our input and consent, and then they're going to work directly with these property owners to, identify contractors to make the necessary repairs, essentially, so they can stay in their homes. That might kind of cover it in a nutshell, somewhat.
No, you did very well. The philosophy is basically with all codes is to not be punitive, but to get things safe. And so we, in the course of our work, do determine that there are some situations where relatively simple or minor improvements that are necessary are just beyond, to some people, $500 is $5 million, to others. And so it's, it's a situation that was brought forth by actually our code enforcement officer, Jordan McCory, who said, maybe is there a way to help folks who are really struggling to make this happen, to get things safe. People want to live in safe places, and we want to help them do that. And so bringing Habitat in was so that we had an arm's length distance from the administration of it. Plus, they have a whole lot of expertise, as EJ mentioned, in doing this type of stuff. So we are happy to partner with them and pleased that they're willing to work with us on this program. They're excited about it, too. They want to see it. This is a model for other places. It's the only, according to Habitat, it's the only one in the county, and they're looking to roll it out to other municipalities.
Great, thank you so much. I'm really excited about this. I'll make a motion to approve memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, board comment?
I have several, if I may. I'm an alumni of this organization, not that you'll see any of my work anywhere, but my impression of them historically has been that they are an organization that has been rebuilding, and I was involved with this piece of dilapidated homes in Philadelphia City, and the future inhabitants of those homes would be contributing, but all of the work was being done by volunteers under the guidance of Habitat, so that this structure could take place and be built at a very low cost. In here, I see several things that I'm not quite clear on. Point 1B, establish eligibility requirements for participation in the program. So that's something that's going to lie ahead. We aren't going to decide that or have a strict application. It's just going to be as needed based on what the code enforcement people tell us?
The case, it'll be brought to our attention by township staff initially, and then there will be eligibility. There's an application that goes beyond this MOU that's before you tonight, in which the it'll be kind of the township finding these things, recommending it, then they have to apply, and Habitat will do a lot of the qualification process, just like they do with other projects that you may be more familiar with. And so that's kind of the selection. I don't know if that's answering your question or not.
It kind of does, but under that same B, paragraph 3, At no time shall Habitat contract directly with a contractor for work to be performed on a property. So that means that Habitat for Humanity does not intend to use their own people for this construction. They intend to have another contractor on site, which they will oversee. Is that what that says?
That's correct.
So that's different than what I'm used to. So this homeowner will be paying a third party, not Habitat, but a third party for whatever work it is that they need but can't afford.
That's correct.
And that third party will get that work how? Bid, assignment from the town, or how would that happen?
Habitat will essentially handle that with our approval, but they'll kind of handle the searching and selection of the contractors, but they won't formally engage them without written approval by the township.
Okay, but so at no time shall Habitat contract directly with a contractor for work to be performed. So they're going to give us advice on who to hire, and then we're going to hire that contractor?
We will not be paying, the funding is being provided to Habitat for Humanity to administer. So they'll be paying the contractor, but they will not engage with them without our approval.
And the contract is between the property owner and the contractor.
Right, correct. Thank you, Mike.
And so all the work is done by a contractor? Like, I don't see anything in B3 that prohibits Habitat Resources from doing work. It just says that if they use a contractor, we have to.
Right, and I think there may be some confusion with kind of the more public-facing side of the work that Habitat does, which is like they engage a lot of volunteers to build houses, but they have already an established critical repair program that essentially operates like this. They do it on a larger scale in Delaware County, basically at a county-wide level. They have been trying to kind of get into Montgomery County to do something similar, but it does operate separately from the volunteer programs that I think Mike and or Tim could probably speak to.
Well, I guess so a third-party contractor is going to perform the work, not Habitat.
That's correct.
And that contractor will be approved or selected by by Habitat for approval by the township? Is that how that's going to go? I mean, that's what I think I'm reading here. I'm just asking for confirmation.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they even beyond that. I mean, they still have to pull permits and such. So yes, there will.
So the contractors will be somewhat familiar with Habitat for Humanity, the ones that they're going to use. They're not going to go out for open bids on these things.
I wouldn't think so.
I believe they have established relationships with contractors that will,
I know
almost
they
like
do,
an
yeah.
insurance company that has, in-network physicians that agree to the rates that they can provide within their program. So they'll bring those in, but yes, they'll have to go through the full permit
Yes, and
process.
I
I'm just
understand
trying
that.
to create the analogy for the
I'm
public.
just wondering if the no bid process will provide for the township to give the Habitat for Humanity people the reasonable amount of money that's due on this instead of an inflated number. That's what I'm asking. And I'm not asking for an answer, but this language suggests that there'll be a limited number of contractors agreeing to perform the work under the guide of Habitat for Humanity. And I know that the trust factor, certainly with me, is very high, that Habitat for Humanity is not looking to gouge anyone, but the township is going to be paying, and that's where I come back to. We need to be able to assure our residents that we did not overpay in this process for work that needed to be done, especially if it's not being done by local contractors. So that's just an open question. I'll leave that. And then the township will provide, under point 2, annual funding in an amount to be determined. So this has not been determined in this budget, so this will take place in '27?
No, the amount for 2026 has been determined.
It has. And
It's
how much?
$10,000.
10,000, okay.
But we didn't want to put a specific number in there because that amount may change next year or the year after.
And this is for an initial term of 3 years. This MOU says that, point 4. Okay. All right, thank you.
But to a lot of the points that Supervisor McFarland made, the township has sole discretion in terms of how much we will fund this program.
Right. Yep.
I'll just add one more point. I would feel better if there was some agreement that we would use township contractors whenever possible, rather than third parties from another area.
So, can you say that again? You mean contractors that are located within Lower Providence Township?
Yes, when
Okay.
possible.
Okay.
Not required,
Mhm.
but the preferred vendors.
Whenever possible.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So if we're going to vote on this, if we could vote on this with the assumption that that modification will be included.
I don't think that's an issue. And I don't anticipate that they'll have any issue with that either.
Okay. Motion to approve memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity. Is there a second?
With the change per Supervisor McFarland.
With the change per Supervisor McFarland. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Board comment? Public comment? Welcome. Please state your name and if you're a township resident.
Brian Keating from Eagleville. I would agree with Peter, because it sounds, I did volunteer also a long time ago for Habitat for Humanity on a couple projects that they had down in Philadelphia. And it was more of a volunteer organization of contractors or workers or construction people that would go and give their time. And it seems like this proposal might be that they're becoming sort of like a developer. They're going to be subcontracting out the labor work involved or the project management. I don't know, and I appreciate your input on that because I feel the same way. I remember volunteering at 100 degrees in Philadelphia in a house. Go down there and there would be 100 people, literally 100 people down there helping. And most of them were like concrete, plumbers, electricians, carpenters. We got free lunch, we got free breakfast, but it wasn't subbed out to a contractor to do the whole project. And with that, being said, it's at least consider having township licensed contractors, if you go this route, at least use local help, okay? Reach out to the union up here. Maybe they could provide some electrical, or their contractor. Their contractors were literally say to their guys, hey, we need 4 apprentices. What we did in Philadelphia, we had 4 apprentices and like 5 or 6 journeymen go down there for 2 Saturdays. We got lunch and got free T-shirts, stuff like that. They handed out some goodie bags to everybody. But these type things, I know 10,000 is nothing. I mean, you can go through that and, paint, basically paint in the house if you get fancy paint or finishes. So $10,000 is not a lot of money, but trying to keep the work or at least let people in the township know that, hey, you can go volunteer on a Saturday to go rake leaves or just to move material in and out of a project. But the big thing was, it was for people getting work equity in their home. This sounds like more or less it's going to be a contractor building a house for somebody, which falls under a developer, in my opinion. I don't know how your opinion is.
I think maybe the code enforcement it's not going to be addition or improvements of any properties other than to repair to meet codes. So this is very limited in that respect.
But I mean, you can reach out to even our contractors in the township. I'm sure some of them would be able to reach out to their vendors, like their paint, like Sherman-Williams or something, and get some donations. They donate to this stuff all the time. I don't think it's good to have Habitat Humanity telling us who we have to put in place here to do work in the township. I don't know if that's what you inferred in your conversation or comments.
Well, my point was that there is going to be a third party, not the volunteers like you and I. I did paint tape, by the way.
I mean, liability-wise, it's probably better to have a licensed contractor to do stuff.
But we are, at least I've requested, and we're going to include in this, the not requirement, if it isn't here, but if there are local contractors, we would look for them first to see if we can involve them.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
I just want to make one statement. This is for critical repairs.
Correct.
It's not sprucing up the place, nice to have. new cabinets in my kitchen. It is for critical repairs for life safety, so the individual can stay in the home.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, and that was, yep, absolutely. And I think this will start a relationship, hopefully, with Habitat for Humanity. Because right now, you know, we've walked the neighborhoods. Nobody's helping these individuals. A lot of them are seniors. So it's a reputable organization. I've also volunteered there, and it was very hot, I remember, in the city. But yeah, I like the idea of bringing all the parties together, introduce people, talk to people, have connections, and see, you know, how we can do the most good. Jay left, but kind of maybe we can get the Rotary involved. Okay, so moving forward.
I need to call for the vote.
Okay, we did the second, we did public comment, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have consideration of Union Pacific Lease Agreement Addendum, and we have E.J. Mentry, Township Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is another item that we've been talking about for a little while. Union Pacific is an existing tenant over at 800 Adams Avenue, township-owned building in site of our new township building and police department. They currently occupy space on the first floor, which needs to be vacated in order to renovate for the new public meeting room. So we will be relocating them to the third floor, which is essentially all tenant space. And so this lease amendment essentially just reflects that. It reflects the new location, their premises within the building, the suite number, the square footage, and the associated rent based on that updated square footage. No other terms or provisions of the lease are being changed. That's why it's relatively short for a lease agreement. It's only about 3 pages because it's just an amendment to reflect those changes. And I will say that the renovations, there were some minor renovations needed for the third floor space into which Union Pacific will be moving. They're just about complete. They might be done as early as tomorrow, and we are on schedule to actually move Union Pacific from the first floor to the third floor next week, right after the holiday, which will then free up the rest of the first floor for the contractor to complete the demolition and begin the renovations for the public meeting space.
Great, thank you. I make a motion to approve Union Pacific Lease Agreement Addendum.
I'll second it.
Great, board comment?
Just a clarification, in the contract, we're reading the base period ends at January 31, 27. Then there were 2 extension periods, correct?
That is correct.
So they are free to leave next January if they wish.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any more board comment? No? Public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have authorization to advertise fire insurance escrow ordinance, and we have Mike Rothling to explain.
Yes, thank you. So this ordinance essentially would allow, well, it's allowed under state law that anytime an insurance policy or a total of insurance policies are paid out over $7,500, the insurance company would first have to reach out to the township and see if there's any outstanding municipal liens. And any time that there's municipal liens, they would get paid first before the insured would get paid out. And also, it would require $2,000 be posted into an escrow for every $15,000 of the policy that's being paid out. So if it's a $30,000 policy payout, the township would get $4,000 put into an escrow, and that's to ensure that the building's either repaired or demolished or secured or whatever needs to happen to the building happens in a timely manner. The long and short is it stops people from receiving their insurance money and moving out of state and just leaving the property abandoned for us to deal with.
Roughly, you mentioned $4,000 on a $30,000 policy. Just trying to get a sense of scale, like what's it cost to demolish a building? Like 5 or 10,000 or?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to, I don't know.
Just ballpark,
Yeah,
order
last year
magnitude.
we took some properties down with our FEMA hazard mitigation dollars.
Yep.
And they were like the 25 to 30 range, I
Okay.
think, Gary, depending on the size of the structure.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just add, these types of ordinances are very common. I think more than half the municipalities in Montgomery County already have them, and I can just say, where I used to work in the Lehigh Valley, we had one of these in place, and we did have a very severe structure fire where the owner was attempting to essentially take the insurance money and get out of town. And the structure of that ordinance was a little bit different, but once the owner realized that the township retained, I think it was like roughly 20% of the insurance proceeds in escrow, that it was significant because it was a townhome. So he was going to just leave this. It was an end unit of townhouses, and he was just going to leave it in, basically a half burnt down structure that the rest of the neighbors would have to kind of deal with. And so it protected the residents and the neighbors and their property values significantly. And had we not had this in place, there was serious concern that he would have taken the insurance money and left, and we would have all been stuck kind of trying to figure out what to do about it. So these are very common. We just, for whatever reason, we have not had one in place here, and I think that we should.
And you just made me think of another question related to this. If there's a fire and and this might be a legal question, I'm not sure. If there's a fire and a building is left standing and the property owner abandons it, do we have legal standing just to come in and tear it down, or do we have to go through a whole process?
There's a process. There's always a process for a municipality, but there is a particular process for the code officer to for an inspection to be done, for it to be deemed unsafe and unhabitable before we take any action to demolish or lien the property.
I'm just curious if there's anything in this ordinance that helps us in that process besides getting some funds.
We couldn't, no, there wouldn't be in this ordinance. That is enshrined in other codes that we've adopted, and I'm not sure if we could even amend them in that way because they're part of the uniform code. So we'd have to get state approval most likely to amend anything in that way for that process. But there is a process in that instance.
Okay, thank you.
Just following up on that process, we had a police action and a destruction of a townhome not too far from here in the middle section, so there were property owners affected on both sides. So can you just run through what process we went through to get that corrected?
So if you're referring to the townhomes in that particular one, that one would have been a little tricky because the unit that this all started with had no insurance, so there wouldn't have been much to go after. However, the other homes that were attached to it that also suffered from it, those insurance companies would have to have posted escrow for, and I don't know what the amount was that was paid out, but for every $15,000 they would have to post escrow to the township for $2,000.
Okay, so other than that incident, is there historically over 10 years, have there been a number of these incidents in this township where the township has had to pay for destruction? FEMA aside, because we got paid for that.
So not a number of them, no. There's only one that I'm aware of where this would have helped us, and
Okay.
that was Crawford and Maryville.
Okay, and then coming back to the numbers, 2,000 for each 15,000 of a claim. So a significant fire, and I won't go way up, but a $150,000 claim, which is a kitchen and maybe two, that would mean that $20,000 of that insurance would be held back based on these rates, so that might make it a little difficult for the homeowner to complete those repairs.
Well, so if, as part of the ordinance, if they have an estimate for the repairs, then they could just post that much for the repairs and,
Into the escrow account?
yeah, into the
Oh, so they have access to it if they use it for repairs?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole point of this is for them to get it fixed as quickly as possible. But yes, it would be posted. So if, in that instance, if they got an estimate for $10,000, we would just post the $10,000 for the escrow or for the repairs or whatever it is, but.
As for fund availability as well, because I had a similar question to this, if the money is held in the escrow account and the work is performed, it can be the invoice can be provided to the township for the release of the money to pay the contractor once the work is completed.
On
So,
the schedule, it doesn't allow that to be the first money they get. Meaning, they get an insurance claim for 150, they put 20,000 into the house, that's the escrow's gone, then they keep the 130 and leave.
no process is perfect, but it provides some assurance that you'd have to leave money behind to walk away from a project like that, for sure.
Okay, motion to authorize advertisement of the fire insurance escrow ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Authorization to sell assets at auction. EJ Mentry, Township Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do this at least once a year, sometimes a couple times a year. We come before the board seeking your approval to send some old pieces of heavy equipment or vehicles to auction under the second-class township code. Anytime we're disposing of any township-owned property or assets, it does require board approval. So a memo has been provided to the board from the Public Works Director outlining 4 items that we will no longer have use for and feel we would get the best return by sending it to auction, where we've had some pretty good luck in the past. J.J. Kane Auctioneers in Plymouth Meeting, it's an absolute auction. The items are a 2002 dump truck, a 2003 brine applicator, a 1974 root plow, and a 2014 tire change machine that has mechanical issues and we've been unable to repair.
Do you think you could work with Joe to try to get a few more years out of that root plow?
I think it's a great idea, actually. I'd be happy to have that conversation with him.
Great, okay. I'd like to make a motion to sell assets at auction.
I'll second.
Board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of resolution for DCED GTRP grant application. Paul Donnelly will explain further.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we are always looking at the township at opportunities for grants to improve our connectivity, and we also work closely with Upper Providence on a lot of these explorations. So one of those things that we share with Upper Providence is the Audubon Loop Trail, and it's probably one of our greatest assets in the township. And one of the challenges with that loop trail, if anyone's ever been on it, is the connection all along Egypt Road. And so what basically happens, you have this really beautiful trail in Audubon that connects to the Perkiomen Trail, which is also gorgeous, but then to get between those two across the bridge on Egypt Road, you have to travel along a very narrow sidewalk that's on a very busy road. It doesn't have any barriers. And so what this grant is for through DCED is to do a study on options on what we could do to improve that connection. And there's a couple different things that we could do, whether it's improving the bridge as it is, whether it's bumping out the bridge to create a dedicated pedestrian area that pedestrians and cyclists could cross safely, whether it's also, what would the cost look like to create a completely independent pedestrian bridge. And so this grant application is basically to do a feasibility study on that. It's a joint application with Upper Providence. The total project cost we estimate to be at about $181,000. The DCED GTRP Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program grant requires a 15% match, which we would split evenly between Upper Providence and Lower Providence. So if we were successful in this grant application, we would expect to pay about $13,000 as part of our match. So for $13,000, we would hope to see what we could do for future grant applications to get this connectivity that the staff feels would be a great asset.
And again, this is a study to then make us more competitive.
Correct.
To get a future grant. And clearly, this is an important connection, if we could get this and make it a safer connection, because it's a common complaint that residents have that use the Audubon Loop Trail, so.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, and I agree with this and everything we're doing. I guess I'm trying to understand, like, for the amount of this grant. I heard you say that they're going to provide like various options and, widening the bridge, different things like that. I'm assuming, it's not an insignificant cost for a study. Are they going to be going into like a level of the engineering and costing of the various options?
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of the reason why it is the cost. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And at the conclusion of this study, the option that we mutually recommend with Upper Providence would then have to be presented and approved by PennDOT, correct?
Correct. I have reached out to PennDOT, District 6, and they are favorable on this project as a whole. So they don't write letters of recommendation anymore, but they find this project favorable. So we're hopeful that in the event that we're successful in this grant application and future ones, that they would be amenable to finding a way to make this work.
Yeah, and I've ridden my bike over this, and I've ridden mountain bikes, and this is terrifying because, and if a kid was on there, they could go off the very narrow thing into traffic. There's no barriers or anything.
What's the timing on this grant? Just thinking for budget purposes, if we get the grant and, we have to budget the match, it would not be a 2026
It would not
expense,
be a
correct?
2026. I think optimally we would be looking at the last quarter of 26 to hear any news, but usually this grant announces its awardees in early 2027. After.
What's the approximate duration of the study once funded?
It's a great question. I actually don't have a great answer to that one. So I would expect the first half of 27. So.
Motion to authorize resolution for DCED GTRP grant application. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. On to zoning ordinance revision update, and we have EJ Mentry, Township Manager, and Solicitor Helionak to give more information.
I'm just going to punt it
Just punt it
directly
over.
to
Take the
Solicitor
laboring oar on this
Heleniak.
one. So for everybody's benefit, we do have just a brief go through the Board of Supervisors authorized, I believe, a little over 2 years ago for a committee to do a review of the current zoning ordinance and identify if there was a benefit in making revisions or potentially a wholesale replacement of the zoning ordinance. After the initial study, it was determined that a replacement of the current zoning ordinance to find a better functioning draft and document would be in the best interest of the township. So if we move on to the agenda, we have just walked through these 4 steps on the zoning ordinance, how it's come together. So the first is how the current code works. Currently, it's a very traditional zoning ordinance. There are separate rules for each district. The current districts tend to be exclusive by use. You have your large lot residential, your smaller lot residential, you have your true business district, you have your institutional district, your industrial district, your office park district. And those regulations are very specific to those districts. There are specific use definitions, which also include some very inconsistent and outdated uses that are a reflection of how the code has been updated over the last 75 years since the implementation of zoning in Lower Providence Township. It's a piecemeal assemblage, and as a result of those amendments, in particular a partial rewrite that was done in 2006, there was a heavy reliance on the township of going to the zoning hearing board to address those inconsistencies and constraints, which creates a bit of a bottleneck at the zoning hearing board for property owners who want and business owners and residents who want to do projects on their property within the township. So after this is the basic effect of the current ordinance. There are some strengths. It has a neighborhood focus, very clear separation of issues, and everybody's used to using it. It's the same form that's been used, like I said, in some way, shape, or form in the last 75 years, but they are established procedures. The weaknesses are that it's an outdated structure. It's very hard to navigate because it's a bit of a Frankenstein's monster and how it's been assembled over the years, pieced together. It's repetitive, it's inconsistent, and it's very rigid when it comes to uses. We found that a lot of things are over-defined, which creates its own set of issues. And also the 2006 rewrite was an effort to constrain development, which could be a priority issue, but its effect was mostly to make most of the township, particularly the township's R2 district, into mostly non-conforming properties. So that was looking at most of our residents in single-family detached properties were constrained on their property from doing anything, putting a addition, a garage, a shed. They were greatly constrained from making any adjustments to their property, and that was impacting residents in a large way and causing a lot of trips to the zoning hearing board for repetitive issues, which after doing an inventory of zoning hearing board cases, we realized that really was the large impact on our residents. The approvals are slow, lots of zoning hearing board visits, and also mixed opportunities for the changing nature of development and uses and community within the township. There were not a lot of opportunities for mixed-use development. There were limitations on the type of housing options that could be offered as part of the residential scheme within the township. And most importantly, as the township infrastructure ages, there were limited opportunities for redevelopment because the zoning code was constraining those options. Yeah, I guess it's adversarial as well. So what is being proposed is a full rewrite of the zoning ordinance. This is a top to bottom rewriting down to the numbering system of the sections of the zoning ordinance to make it easier to navigate. It is reorganized in a logical way to allow both residents and experienced professionals to understand the requirements of what the township expects for development of or redevelopment of any property. The regulations are simplified. They are more straightforward. We have ensured that there is not contradiction, and the regulations have also been centralized in that you're only looking in one place for a particular aspect related to development of your property. And one of the things that this new structure allows the zoning code to do is be a little bit more flexible. And that doesn't necessarily mean providing uncontrolled development, but it looks at how we view development and uses in a modern perspective so that we're not pigeonholing things in a way that when new uses arise or new concepts arise, that we don't have an ability to respond to those requests from the township. We can more easily determine how those uses fit appropriately within the township zoning regulations. So this is the new structure from a 30,000 foot view. Instead of a long list in each district, as well as a exhaustive yet exhausting list of definitions of uses, all those uses and their definitions, including in which zoning districts they're provided, are contained in one unified use matrix where you can look at a table and determine what the use is, how it's defined by the township, and where it's permitted on the zoning map, and in turn determine if it's permitted on your property. It's very easy to use. So once you determine whether your use is defined and provided in your district, you can look at these other provisions that we'll go through in just a minute. As I just mentioned, there's flexibility. There are more mixed-use districts. There's a focus on providing a live-work opportunity across more areas of the township, and having those uses be more compatible in their dimensional regulations, and certainly less reliance on going to the zoning hearing board for relief. As part of this flexibility, though, that we are suggesting performance standards that, as it says here, shifts the focus to impacts and not just the nature of the use. So as a precondition for any use to be approved by the township as part of a zoning or use permit, for almost every use, the applicant would have to demonstrate that that use does not have an adverse impact on their property or the surrounding properties. And so it's not just saying this use is permitted here, it's that this use is permitted here, but you have to make an affirmative showing that the objective impacts of your use are not detrimental. And those include impacts like noise, traffic, and environmental concerns. And this improves the consistency of review and provides the township staff with the information it needs to make informed decisions about whether these uses should be approved and are permitted. And something that will not be shown tonight, but will be highlighted later in this process, is a completely redone zoning map, significantly reducing the number of zoning districts. These zoning districts are more intuitive as to what those particular areas are trying to accomplish. It makes the ordinance easier to use. It gets rid of a lot of nonconformities, and also implements a full overlay of the entire township for what is entitled the Natural Resources Conservation District, which is focused on protecting the natural resources on properties, including our water courses and our steep slope areas, as well as our wetlands and floodplains, to make sure that the development is not impacting those environmentally sensitive areas in a negative way, which tends to have an impact on other properties as well. So it's looking at this as instead of a piece by piece basis, but taking the entire township into consideration as a whole. And also, we had the opportunity to address some issues that have plagued the township and the zoning hearing board over the last number of years. Those include our privilege of having movie lots within the township, which are the very small lot residential in certain areas of the township. So we've created a way that owners of those parcels can effectively use them, and also encourage them to use them in more sustainable and good planning ways. Other things is addressing attainable housing within the township, providing opportunities for adaptive reuse, and then some other more high-level uses that are being widely discussed, both in planning circles and in the general public. Data centers and how we regulate them, transitional housing, ADUs, which are accessory dwelling units on residential properties, and then, as I just discussed, increased floodplain regulation to adequately protect our natural resources and the development near those, as well as a mixed-use concept called the residential office commercial development, which encourages that live, work, shop model all in one place. So reading the new zoning ordinance we try to make it a bit more straightforward, as opposed to paging back and forth through the numerous pages, which have been reduced as well. But you basically look at the map and identify the zoning district in which your property lies, and let's say you determine that you're in the low density residential district. At that point, you go to Article 8, which is the use chapter, which is the use matrix that was discussed earlier. You can use this in one of two ways. You can look by use as to what you propose to do in your property and scroll down, find that use, and then go across the column to determine if that use is provided in your district, still using the low density residential or LDR. Or you can go down the column of the LDR, low density residential, and see all the uses that are available to you in that district. Once you determine whether that use is provided in your district, you can then go to the very next article, Article 9, and review those particular district standards. Those are the classic regulations that anybody who's had to deal with the zoning ordinance would typically see. How big does my front yard have to be? How big does my side yard have to be? How much of my property can I cover with building? How much of my property can I cover with impervious surface? And then those really true standard dimensional development standards are included in that article. And then after that, you go to the next article, Article 10, which are the performance standards. Once you know your use, which you would have defined from Article 8, you can look directly at the performance standards related to that use and know exactly what you have to provide to the township as a precondition to receive your permission to move forward with that use. That could be anything from just ensuring that that use has hours of operation of a certain interval, or that you must, to anything from providing a particular traffic impact study or a community impact study to the township, or ensuring that you have a higher requirement for a certain number of other requirements because of the use you're proposing there. So we try to structure it in a way that you can directly walk through in a sequential way to understand exactly what you can do on your property and how it can be developed or redeveloped. And then this is where we are tonight. We've provided an update. I know that staff has met with the supervisors individually to present the draft and receive your comments, which have been incorporated in the draft that is before you tonight for approval to send to both the Township and Montgomery County Planning Commissions for their review and comment, which is a required part of any zoning ordinance amendment process. We anticipate that the Planning Commission would review this at their June meeting, and if needed, also at their July meeting, based on the level of review and the interest from the public. It would come back to the Board of Supervisors in August for a workshop session for, I believe that's conceptualized right now as a special meeting to allow some more open discussion between the board and the public on the zoning ordinance, to hear the public's input on that, on the draft and how they feel it impacts the township and their properties. And that would set up the board to consider authorization to advertise the ordinance at the September at one of the September Board of Supervisors meetings for a potential public hearing and adoption at the October Board of Supervisors meeting. So that would fulfill all of the township's procedural requirements for moving forward with this, and would set us up to, at the very latest, start the new year with a brand new zoning ordinance and provide our community development team with some new tools and information to continue to help residents and property owners navigate this process within the township. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know our Community Development Director, Mike Mrzinski, could also answer any questions if the board has them at this time. Yeah.
Great, thank you. That was wonderful, and thank you for all the work that was put into this by the township staff and our solicitor. I appreciate that. I just had one question I wrote down. Currently, municipalities such as ours, we host the zoning code and ecode360.com. So since this is more of a colorful matrix versus straight text, will that system be able to handle it?
Well, they should. There are other municipalities whose codes are much more elaborate than Lower Providence's, or even the other municipalities that I work with that incorporate diagrams, pictures, examples, and so we would anticipate that eCode has the ability to do that, and I think we've put some preliminary feelers out to them to ensure that they could adapt in this way.
Great, thank you.
Just in brief, Lower Marion has a very elaborate zoning ordinance and pictures and colors and stuff like that, and that's accessible. So we believe we can do the same, but better.
And I would just give kind of one caveat for expectation's sake with E-code, with any ordinances we adopt. They're not automatically, it's not just like an upload. It actually goes to general code. They have a whole legal process where they incorporate it. So for an ordinance of this magnitude, which is truly a remove and replace,
Yes, repeal and
you know,
replace.
if you would adopt this in October, it's probably going to be a couple of months for it to get available on E-code. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in place, but it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah.
Greg referred to Board of Supervisors' individual reviews and changes being made to the original draft as a result of those reviews?
There were some changes. Most of them were very minor. They were certain provisions. I know that there was some request for some inclusion of more intentional language about the township's priorities related to green initiatives and protection of the environment, to make sure that was included in our legislative intent throughout these sections. There were some comments on maintaining the notice provisions that we currently have of 500 feet that were maintained in the ultimate draft, where we had initially made some other suggestions to modify that process. So that was reverted based on the Board of Supervisors comments. Most of the comments that we did receive from the board were related to those accessibility, not accessible as in a physical access, but the accessibility of the public on navigating the ordinance itself. So we made those adjustments on essentially wayfinding throughout the ordinance, which was helpful from the committee's perspective, as we kind of got too close to our eyes as we've been wading through it for the last 2+ years, and having the additional understanding of how the board would access it, the public would access it. We made those adjustments. So I wouldn't say there were any material or large-scale material adjustments based on the feedback that the supervisors provided for us in those meetings, more so the refinement that was expected.
Okay, I know I had concerns, and I'm not going to question those specifically, but if I understand this, you're asking the board to vote to send to the Planning Commission meeting a document they have not yet seen.
The Planning Commission?
We, the board, have not seen the revisions.
I guess in some ways it was transmitted. I know it was only transmitted a couple hours before this evening's meeting, but I think we feel comfortable with it because there weren't material changes based on the draft that you did review.
I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable. I didn't read it. I only got it at 4 o'clock, and I had no time to read it.
To Peter's point, if we were to approve this tonight, like I was at a funeral, so I didn't have a chance to review it. If we approve it for Planning Commission review, I'm assuming we would have the ability to review it in parallel as supervisors. And if we notice something, could we roll that in during one of the workshops?
Absolutely. This is not a final document. This is still a draft. The purpose of sending it to the Planning Commissions is to get their review and comments to come back for a final document to be assembled prior to hearing, which still gives the board an option for adoption. So any additional board changes that could be requested or decided and considered by the board as a whole are completely on the table throughout this process up until final adoption.
And the Planning Commission will be told that the documents they're looking at have not yet been fully approved by the Board of Supervisors? Will they be told that in advance, so they aren't assuming that we have already corrected anything we wish to correct and they're now to look at it?
They certainly can be informed of that. The Planning Commission has carte blanche to offer any comments that they can, similar to any ordinance amendment they've reviewed previously, where it is transmitted to them by the entity that develops it, including property owner amendments when they come in are sent directly to the planning commissions for their review. It's the same process.
And I would say, just to answer that from my perspective as the liaison to the planning commission, I would make them aware of that, you know, they have it, that this situation exists.
Okay, thank you, Gary. And it's a public meeting, so when would the public have visibility to this discussion on the June 24th meeting so that they could understand what was being discussed?
Sorry, I don't know if I quite understood the
The
question.
meeting on the 24th of June is
Yes.
a public meeting. So when would the public be able to see the documents that are being reviewed by the Planning Commission so they could understand what's being discussed?
I believe and correct me if I'm wrong, EJ, the intention is once this is authorized, we can assemble the drafts to be posted for public review so that both the Planning Commission and the public can fully participate in that comment process.
Yeah, just to add,
Immediately after we vote on this tonight, it will be made public, is that what I heard?
probably next week, yeah. Probably not going to happen tomorrow, but I would say by the end of next week, we would have this up on the website if you authorize this tonight, yes.
And so again, the planning commission meeting is June 24th, but the planning commission members will get the document before that so they can go in prepared to their meeting, right?
They will also receive it.
Right,
When-
that's what
next-
you're
early
saying.
next week,
And
yes.
then our next meeting, the Board of Supervisors' next meeting is June 18th, so it's actually even before the planning commission. So I would think, you know, during that time, we would have time to review and bring up any other concerns that we could just informally send you, right?
I would have no issue, even if we transmit these to the Planning Commission next week, if the board comes with further changes, sending them an amended version prior to their meeting, absolutely.
Okay.
Greg, I have a few questions. So this document, how many pages is it again?
I don't know that answer to the question. Each chapter is its own document at the moment, so I don't have a full assemblage, but I would say that it's at least.
It's a little over 200.
Okay.
It went from 305 to 218, something like that, because
Okay, great.
I did print it off.
Okay.
Easy
So-
to scan.
Yeah,
Easy to scan.
so then, just, you know, this is all in draft form, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then thirdly, are there any major changes that were asked by the supervisors to change anything in this 200-plus document?
Like I said, there were not major changes. I think that the largest thing that I mentioned were the notice provisions where we had slightly recrafted those, and they've now reverted to the notice provisions that currently exist today. So that's, for the public, that's not a material change.
Okay.
That would maintain the status quo when it comes to notice.
Okay, so with that all being said, I'm okay with it in draft form, and it's not any major changes to be presented to the Planning Commission at this time, because we still have time to make any revisions later. And good luck to the Planning Commission for reading 200-plus pages.
If I might, I don't want to overstep, but I mean, this is a process that really started with the comp plan 5 years ago. We had a more shareholder involvement, more public involvement in that than in almost anything else that we've done here in my time here. We then followed, which is by design. Now we look at what we had in place. We looked at our 305-page zoning ordinance from 1955. We realized there were some issues. We were given permission to, okay, let's make this better. You guys gave us the mission, but also the ability to spend the time and get it right, which is what we did, we believe. We are humbly proud of this document. But what we are asking for basically tonight is let us take this work and put it out there. you are the only ones who have really seen this thing so far, and as individuals. And so now we want to get it out there so that we can get more feedback, so that by October, we are ready to put this thing into place. Because I get 3 phone calls a week. When is this going to happen? People know that there's projects that are waiting to come in. There are people asking, hey, why can't I do something with my movie lot or whatever? We know what the litigation's been. We know what the zoning hearing board at 35 to 40 hearings a year bring in. So it's time to get this out there. Let's move this thing forward. Zoning is one of the best tools we have for planning to realize a vision for a community. And we are happy with where we are right now. We know we're going to have some changes, and so we are just asking really to be able to put it out there and get some feedback from all of you, which is ongoing, and as well as the public.
And again, it's like it's been said, this is draft. There is time, and you have said there is time as we reread it, as the Planning Commission looks at it, and as the public looks at it, to consolidate, to bring those comments together, to see what changes need to be made, etc.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and if I didn't say it before, I was really happy with how this document turned out. I found it easy to read, well organized, and it did a great job. So, thanks everyone on staff and, the solicitor.
In addition to the website, let's put it on social, because people don't go on the website. Let's just be honest. It's, people get their information from social, so. All right, good. All right, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Planning Commission's review of the zoning ordinance revision.
I'll second.
Thank you. Board comment? Public comment? Hi again. Got it. Paul, can you help?
Okay. Brian Keating, Eagleville. Thank you for your help turning this on. I took a look at what was just discussed here as the screens were scrolling through, and there's a couple of things on there that I think you should have more public input on. There's several items. First of all, I want to ask, who decided to change the zoning map? Was that decided by the county, or was that decided by the township? Can anybody answer that? I mean, the updating it's a great idea, because it's ridiculous to go through it and try and find what you're allowed to do and what you can do on your property. But I saw a couple of things on there, like data centers. That's a big public issue right now. Huge. And I know we don't have a lot of land available to do anything like that, but it's still a concerning issue for the general public in the township. You have over 24,000 people living in this township, and a lot of them are going to have a voice on whether or not a data center is going to be allowable in the township. I see you guys looking back and forth. I know that's probably a big issue because it's in our adjoining communities right now. It's a huge issue. I mean, I'm an electrician. I love the data centers, but they should be self-contained, in my opinion. But the thing about it I wanted to ask is, who decided to rezone the map?
That's a integral part of the process. In rewriting the entire ordinance, the districts were going to change. So when you're changing the districts, the map has to change. And all of that originates with the township. The county cannot dictate to the township anything related to zoning.
Okay.
So that's all originates with the township. Now, nothing's been decided. It's the recommendation of the committee right now. And if the board moves it forward, then it will be reviewed thoroughly by the planning commissions.
Okay, thank you. But the thing I think is they only had a 1 month public input noted on that before a decision was going to be made. I think that should be extended out more than 1 month.
It wasn't, not to interrupt you, sir, it wasn't 1 month. There's your opportunity tonight. We anticipate there will be at least 2 planning commission meetings, which are public meetings where the public can come and participate. There is a workshop of the Board of Supervisors specifically designed for public input, and then at least 2 more Board of Supervisors meetings where this will be on the agenda, including a public hearing. So ultimately, we're looking at 5 or 6 opportunities for the public to come out and give their input.
Okay, thank you. And I think putting it on social media, there are people that do hit the website a lot, believe me, but there are more people on social media. So any way we could get it out there to the township residents, I think would benefit everybody and would give people a chance or an opportunity to come in front of you and speak for what the community wants. And, you know, any public input on something will be a good thing for the township.
Yeah, thank you, I agree.
I think we have a newsletter coming out too, so
Yeah, okay.
it should be in the
I think you
newsletter.
guys send it out June, right? Usually? I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, so there's multiple ways for people to know.
All right, thank you.
And just related to the data centers, I believe we recently had an ordinance on data centers, or no, discussion. We had discussion, but I think you'll be happy with how we're thinking about data centers.
Okay.
Yeah, and the one.
I mean, they're good if they can be self-sufficient. You know, if they got an unlimited water supply and, you know, a modular nuclear reactor next to them. But in general, I think the townships and a lot of the local municipalities aren't too happy with what they're trying to force down the, you know, residents' throats. Okay.
Okay. Any more public comment? Okay, moving on to the vote.
Can we just,
Go ahead, sure.
Yeah, I guess just to address the data center issue, or any of the issues related to the uses in the zoning ordinance, the township is required to provide for every legitimate use that exists, and that can be a tricky endeavor. As you mentioned, data centers are a topic of conversation in every municipality right now of how they're going to be addressed, accommodated, and considered. And so that is something we cannot just say no data centers. No municipality can say no data centers. There is no legal mechanism to do that. We're not empowered to do so. So this was an opportunity to include appropriate regulation to make sure that the impact of those, if one were to ever consider to locate in Lower Providence Township, had a minimal impact on our residents and on our properties.
Already made accommodations for not the size or scope they want now, but we do have data centers.
Okay, thank you for that, everyone. Any more public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Apologize for my voice. I'm losing it. Okay, on to announcements and meetings. The administrative office here will be closed Monday, May 25th for the Memorial Day holiday. And I'll just say that May is National Military Appreciation Month. And I know Memorial Day is a time, we all know, many people gather and we have delicious foods. But I just want to take a moment to show recognition and awareness that Memorial Day is dedicated to honoring and remembering service members who died in the line of duty. Just want to make that quick comment. The Planning Commission was supposed to meet on May 27th. That was canceled. Zoning Hearing Board, May 28th, was also canceled. The Human Relations Commission will meet on June 3rd at 6:30, and the Sewer Authority will meet June 8th at 4:30. And on June 1st at 4 o'clock, we will have a flag display for Pride Month here in this building. We have the Environmental Advisory Council, June 15th at 7. Library Board of Trustees, June 15th at 6 p.m. Park and Rec Board, June 16th at 6 p.m. And Concert in the Park, Sunday, June 7th at 6 p.m., Eagleville Park Amphitheater featuring Yesterday's Gone. Is that Fleetwood Mac? What is that? I think it's Fleetwood Mac.
Guest star Sarah Charles.
Maybe next time. Or you. On to courtesy of the floor, not to exceed 3 minutes per person.
Excuse me, Chair. I just had a question. There was an added announcement for Pride Month. I did not hear that.
The flag.
Oh, that we're going to display the flag June 1st.
Oh,
at
okay.
4
I thought you said
p.m.
flag raising.
Here in the room. Mm-hmm.
Oh, at 4 p.m.?
Yep.
4 p.m. on the 1st.
Oh, okay. It's not in our list
Didn't
here,
an
so.
email go out? An invite?
Not yet. Yeah, just
Okay,
now.
okay.
This was just added today.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right, not a problem.
No,
Not
that's
a problem.
my
Sorry, I
apologies.
didn't want to miss anything.
My apologies. I just wanted to say it before our next meeting, since it's so soon. Okay, courtesy of the floor, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Any meeting attendees wishing to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name, whether you're a township resident. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Public comment is an opportunity to share your thoughts with the board. Supervisors may respond at their discretion, but are not required to answer questions during this portion of the meeting. If you'd like to follow up, please contact the board or township staff directly by email or phone.
All right, real quick. Sorry, Brian Keating, Eagleville. There was no mention of the recent event that was held at the firehouse. They did a great job on that.
great.
A lot of input. It was great. I mean, I think people were able to have a good time, and it was a good thing to benefit. So I appreciate them doing that. Second thing is, I came here tonight not to really talk a lot, but congratulations to the police officer for that commendable job he did. I mean, he took 5 criminals out of our township, kept a lot of people safe. That's a lot of guns to have in one car with some nefarious characters. But I really came here to talk about another thing. With summer upon us, and a lot of students in Methacton might be affected by this, I've noticed a recent increase in e-bikes riding all over the roads. Okay, in the last 3 weeks, I have 5 videotapes of different individuals, and I would guarantee none of them are over 16, riding in the middle of the road, riding down Ridge Pike, riding down the back roads, going through stop signs, going in shopping centers. I mean, these kids are given a bike. With that should come some kind of responsibility, okay? And the state law in 2023, the state of Pennsylvania enacted an ordinance or a law concerning e-bikes. You have to be 16 years old to ride one. Okay, there's limited areas that you can ride them. If you're a passenger on one, if you're over 12, you have to be over 12, you have to have a helmet on. But this is going to be a concerning issue with students getting out of school. And I know a lot of probably Methacton and other schools have kids between 8 years old and 16 that are going to be trying to ride these things all over our roads. We don't want any kids getting killed. I mean, I have videotape literally of a kid coming out of one of the roads I live next to, going right in the middle of Ridge Pike and zigzagging Ridge Pike and then making a right turn at the firehouse. And I videotaped him the whole way because I was behind him. I'm like, man, this kid's going to get killed. And then I videotaped him. I did post a picture of him from the back, not from the face. But it's a concerning issue. I wanted to bring it up tonight because we're just starting summer. And it's something that our board needs to look at, as well as the police. The police need to either get on top of it or have somebody responsible if a kid gets killed. I mean, the parents are going to blame it on a driver, just somebody going to work, somebody going to help somebody, or somebody going grocery shopping, and a kid pulls out in front of you, he doesn't care. So it's going to be an issue this summer. I think you're going to see, and I know in the adjoining townships, they're already having problems. Upper Providence has a huge problem with it because of the shopping centers up there. I see it happening over the last 2 months with the nice weather, more and more, almost every morning, every evening, and on the weekends. So it's just something I wanted to bring up for you guys to look at and think about, trying to keep youth safe, the public safe, and not to have anybody die in this township from stupidity. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. But, it's great that the laws are in place, and it's great that we, as the leaders of the township, are looking into this, and the police as well. But number one is the parental responsibility to talk to their child and talk about the rules of the street, and maybe considering not buying an e-bike for children under that age. So I think, that's where we need to focus first, with education and awareness for the parents and also for the children. So we can do but so much, but where's that bike coming from?
Thank you for that. Any other public comment? Okay, moving on to board comment.
I have a couple issues, not issues. This is for Chief Jackson. We updated the solicitation ordinance not too long ago. And can you just remind people how they make complaints of people who are soliciting at their homes, may or may not have a permit, et cetera? What's the process?
Okay, so, all right, we have a couple different avenues for that. Number one is you can sign up to be on the no solicitation list. You could do that through our website, fill out the form, email it back. All the information is right on the form. You can get your address put on the list. You could also put a sign on the front door or somewhere visible for a solicitor saying no solicitation. They're duty bound to honor both the address requirement and the no solicitation sign. If you encounter a solicitor who ignores either one of those, call 911. The police will come out, they'll investigate. Just a couple other points I just want to make. Oftentimes residents will answer the door knowing it's a solicitor, and it's okay to be polite also. You get more with honey. So just politely ask them to leave. Tell them you don't want to buy anything from them or participate in their solicitation, and they have to leave. Okay, don't get in an argument with them. Call 911 if there's any issue. Just call 911. Other things you can do is you can ask who they represent. You can ask to see their credentials. They're supposed to have a government-issued ID as well as the solicitation permit on their person.
Okay.
So you can ask to see those. If they can't produce them, call 911. That's a violation of our ordinance. And police officers will come out, will investigate. It happens all the time. If they show you their credentials, you can always go to the website. We list all of our solicitors on the police department website as well. So all approved solicitors. So check the website. If they're approved, they're lawfully allowed to solicit. If they're not on the list, call 911. So when in doubt, just call the police.
They're lawfully allowed if you don't have a no solicitation sign.
That's right. So
Right.
correct.
Right. Okay. And, some of the residents have said to me they hate to call 911 because it's not like a life-threatening emergency or something like that. Is there a non-emergency line they could call to report?
It's the best way to get a hold
Okay.
of us. Yes,
All right.
you're not bothering anybody.
Yep.
Call
Okay.
911. That's the easiest and best way
Yep.
to get a hold of us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I just have one other request to explain the trash and recycle service. When Mascaro misses a house, what are residents supposed to do?
They can contact Mascaro directly, or they can contact the township. We maintain a dedicated, I don't want to call it a hotline, but we have like a dedicated phone line specifically to call in with trash and recycling pickup related complaints or issues. We also have a dedicated email address. Please do not ask me what those are because I do not know them off the top of my head, but we can repost that. They're available on the website, but we can repost them maybe on social just to remind people. If we get contacted with a missed pickup, we'll contact Mascaro right away. The vast majority of the time, they'll come out and correct the issue within 24 hours. Unfortunately, what we run into a lot is people will call us 3 or 4 days after their scheduled pickup to let us know that it wasn't picked up, and they had not also contacted Mascaro, and at that point, it's almost time for the next pickup, so there's
Correct.
not really much that can be done. So I would just encourage people, either contact Mascaro directly or contact the township, and we'll try to get it resolved within 24 hours.
Yeah, I would request that you put it out on social media again, just to remind folks of how they can handle that situation. Okay, that's it.
Just on the recycling, I've had a couple of residents report to me that they're seeing recycling and lawn refuse being put into the trash. The refuse, they might put it out Tuesday for it to be picked up Wednesday, but then it goes in the trash. And the same thing with recycling. So some people expressed concern after hearing the recycling presentation. And the jaundiced ones, say, oh, well, the reason they put that nice presentation on is because they're not doing the recycling, So I think Mascaro is doing a good job with recycling, but I think sometimes the people picking it up maybe make mistakes. So I think that's something maybe to provide feedback on.
Yeah, that's helpful, and I would just say the same thing. If you hear any of those things, please have the residents contact us, because in addition to trying to get the issue resolved, we also maintain essentially a log of all trash or recycling related issues or complaints that come in, and in addition to contacting Mascaro immediately to try to get that specific issue resolved, we also have monthly standing meetings with the route supervisors where we review kind of any recurring issues that we're hearing a lot of, and figure out a way to kind of work with them to address them. So we'll send them our way.
Yes.
And I think that is important, if there's recurring issues, to let the township know and to have that log, because also they have a contract with us, so we have to monitor their performance. And this is one way by the number of complaints we get. Thank you.
Let's see. Mr. Keating made a comment that caused me to remind the public that, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, June 1st is when touching a cell phone becomes a primary offense? While driving? Yes. Yeah. You got me.
Touching the cell phone will only apply to one person in this room.
Okay. All right. Sewer Authority update. We went through starting to look at the budget for the upcoming year and rate increases. And in my role as Assistant Treasurer, one of the things I did was put together a 10-year capital budget, looking at, and we're working through it mostly for 2027, but we did some rough cut analysis. So a 10-year capital budget so that we can start to forecast out what rates are going to be for the next 10 years. Hopefully we aren't going to have to go out for borrowing if we make prudent increases in the rates over time. And people always complain about, the rates are going up. But I think if we keep the sewer system maintained well, it won't get sold, and we won't see a tripling of rates. So I think that's really, really super important. I did have someone during the election, a retired person, one person in the House, made a comment to me both about trash and sewer rates. And so they basically said, hey, I'm only me. I'm paying the same for trash and for sewer as the family down the street that has 5 people. So from the Sewer Authority perspective, I'm going to try to work with the board to see if there's a feasible way to do something there. I can't make any promises. I don't know if it's feasible. But I think as we think through the upcoming bid, we might want to think if there's something, where someone can show a certain income level in the household, some way to provide some relief, because for someone on a limited income, these things can be challenging. And last, I wanted to call out that May 7th was the National Day of Reason. I just want to read a very quick statement on this. The National Day of Reason was celebrated this year on May 7th and is observed to affirm the importance of reason, critical thinking, scientific inquiry, and evidence-based decision-making in a free and democratic society. Reason and logic provide a common framework through which people of every background, culture, and belief system can evaluate facts, solve problems, and work to the common good. The founders of the United States established a constitutional system grounded in the separation of church and state in order to protect both religious liberty and freedom of conscience. History demonstrates that authoritarian governments have often exploited religious institutions or sectarian divisions as tools for political control, censorship, intimidation, and the suppression of dissent. Open debate, intellectual freedom, scientific advancement, and evidence-based public policy strengthen democratic institutions and promote human progress. Fostering a culture that values education, national discourse, mutual respect, and critical examination of claims helps build a more informed, free, and resilient community. That's all.
Okay. Okay, seeing no more board comments, we will adjourn. Next business meetings are June 18th and July 16th. There's only one